Okay, let's get right into it. You hear about sustainable alternatives all the time, right? Well, today we're talking about a big one, hemp plastic. So, is this the real deal? The miracle material we've all been waiting for to solve our plastic nightmare? Or is it just a bunch of marketing hype? Let's dig in and find out.
I mean, check this out. Right out of the gate, you see exactly why people are so excited. On one side, you've got your standard plastic bottle, something that'll still be sitting in a landfill 500 years from now. And on the other, hemp plastic, gone in as little as 3 months. Poof! Yeah, the difference is absolutely staggering.
Okay, so before we can really appreciate what hemp could do, we got to get our heads around the monster we're trying to fight. And believe me, it is a monster of a problem.
So get this, since the 1950s, since the era of poodle skirts and diners, we've produced 8.3 billion tons of plastic. That is a number so huge it's almost meaningless, right? How do you even picture that?
Well, let's try to put it in perspective. Think about the biggest animal on the planet, the blue whale. Now imagine 53 million of them. Yep, all the plastic we've ever made weighs more than that. It's just mind-boggling. And the craziest part? More than half of that is already trash, just sitting in landfills or, floating around in our oceans.
So where does all this stuff even come from? Well, a whopping 99% of it is made from fossil fuels. We're talking oil, natural gas, coal, all the usual suspects. Not only are those non-renewable, but making plastic is a pretty dirty business. And get this, if we stay on this path, the plastic industry alone could gobble up 20% of all the oil we use in the world by 2050. 20%.
This really drives home just how long this stuff sticks around. A plastic bottle you throw away today could easily still be here in 1,000 years. 1,000. To give you some context, 1,000 years ago, you had Vikings sailing the seas and knights clashing in the First Crusade. That's how long this plastic legacy lasts. It's kind of terrifying when you think about it.
All right, so the problem is huge, we get it. But now let's bring in our potential hero, hemp. And honestly, when you look at it on paper, it seems like the absolute perfect answer we've been searching for.
I mean, just look at this resume. The list of hemp's superpowers is, well, it's incredible. It's fully biodegradable, gone in like 3 to 6 months. It's infinitely recyclable. It's packed with cellulose, which is what makes plants strong, so it's super durable. And here's the kicker. While it's growing, it literally sucks up 4 times more CO2 from the atmosphere than trees do. It's a carbon-sucking machine. You're probably thinking, okay, this sounds way too good to be true.
Well, you might be right. This is where we hit the big but. See, that term, hemp plastic, it's a little misleading. It's not nearly as straightforward as it sounds. We really need to look under the hood to see what we're actually getting.
Okay, so this is the dream scenario. This is what we all imagine. 100% pure plant-based plastic made from hemp cellulose. It does everything we just talked about. It's biodegradable, it's sustainable, it's the whole package. This is the miracle material we're all hoping for. But then there's the reality of what you're most likely to find on the store shelves right now, and that's something called a biocomposite. What does that mean? It means they take hemp fibers and basically just mix them in with other plastics. And yeah, you guessed it, those other plastics are often the same old fossil fuel-based ones we're trying to replace in the first place.
And this is the key thing you've got to understand. Most of the time when a product is labeled hemp plastic, it might only have about 20% actual hemp fiber in it. One of our sources had a great analogy for this. It's like the fruit in a fruit yogurt. Sure, it's in there, but it's a pretty small part of the total package. The other 80%? Still just good old conventional plastic.
And this quote from one of the sources really says it all. You see these products marketed as this amazing, sustainable choice, but the truth is, they're often not much better than regular plastic. You can't recycle them in normal systems, and they definitely don't biodegrade. It's a classic case of greenwashing. So that begs the question, right? If the 100% pure stuff is actually possible to make, why isn't everything made out of it? Well, as with most things, it comes down to some really big practical challenges. We're talking about cost, manufacturing, and the entire industrial system. Let's start with the big one, money. Right now, to make that pure 100% biodegradable hemp plastic, it can cost twice as much as making regular old petroleum plastic. And for any company trying to sell millions of products, that's a massive, massive hurdle. And that cost is really a symptom of 3 bigger barriers. First, the process itself of turning hemp into plastic is pretty complex and takes a lot of energy. Second, we just don't have the factories. We don't have the facilities built to churn this stuff out on a global scale.
And third, even if we made it all, we don't have the right recycling systems to deal with it at the end of its life. Think about it. We spent the better part of a century building a world that runs on petroleum plastic. You can't just flip a switch.
But, okay, it's not all doom and gloom. Not at all. Because despite all those challenges, there is some serious momentum building. The potential is still absolutely massive, and people are starting to make real progress.
Just take a look at the market growth. The market for hemp fiber is projected to hit $500 million by 2028. When you see numbers like that, it tells you that big money and big industries are starting to pay very close attention. The investment is starting to pour in.
And it's not just talk. We can already see it being used in the real world. Take the car industry, for example. Major players like BMW are already using these hemp biocomposites for things like interior door panels. So why are they doing it? Well, for one, it's up to 50% lighter than traditional materials, which means better fuel efficiency. Plus, since the hemp plant sucked up all that CO2 while it was growing, these parts can actually have a negative carbon footprint. How cool is that? And funny enough, this isn't even some brand new idea. Way back in the day, Henry Ford himself famously built a car body out of hemp.
Now, this is interesting. One of the sources we looked at presented a pretty provocative theory about why hemp got sidelined in the first place. The argument goes something like this. What if the real reason cannabis was made illegal had less to do with the drug and more to do with hemp being a massive threat to the booming oil and plastic industries? Now, that's presented as one person's opinion from our sources, not a proven fact, but it's definitely a fascinating thought to chew on. You know, thinking about the powerful economic forces that shape our world.
So where does that leave us? Well, we know the science works. We know the plant itself has this incredible, almost unbelievable potential. But turning that potential into a reality that actually saves the planet, that's going to take a complete overhaul of, well, everything. Our factories, our economy, our recycling systems. So in the end, the big question isn't really about hemp at all. It's about us. The potential is there. But do we have the collective will to actually build the world that hemp needs to succeed?